Chiefs-Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division, to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hey everybody, it's in-game live game day here on SportsGrid, and aren't you lucky? Well, at least we're lucky, because for the third straight day, you get Brady Cannon and me, Adam Kaufman, paired up, and we have you for the next few hours here on the grid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. We are going to touch on a lot of things, some Week 1 reactions, obviously, to what we've seen so far in college football. Not over yet. You got the main event tonight, as far as I'm concerned. Chapel Bill Belichick, college coaching debut at North Carolina, 3.5-point dogs at home against TCU. That game is 4 hours away, so we'll have an opportunity to preview that ad nauseum in the hours to come. We will continue our NFL team-by-team deep dives, getting you ready for the 2025 season. We touched on the Arizona Cardinals last night. If you missed any of that, available to you soon enough on the SportsGrid YouTube page. You should check it out. But we will go into great lengths to discuss the Green Bay Packers, who, if you missed it, added Micah Parsons, although looks like he's dealing with an injury. So look at Jerry selling damaged goods. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll talk about the Carolina Panthers. Continue to make our way through the NFC South. Should be a lot of fun. And plenty of afternoon baseball games here on this Labor Day in progress. Brady, how are you?
I'm great, my friend. Yeah, the triple play of Cannon and Kaufman here over Labor Day weekend, one of my favorite holidays. We talked about that last night. You know, the NFL is on the doorstep. You've got a huge college football weekend going on. And like you said, not over yet. One more marquee game left in prime time with Belichick taking on Sonny Dykes and TCU. I can't wait to get into that game. Can't wait to watch it. A lot of good baseball going. You know, baseball, no holiday for them. They're still going strong with a full schedule of games today. And yeah, a lot of NFL talk to get to. Good show coming up, my friend.
Let's start with some of these games on the diamond and just what's happening right now. And I got to tell you, sometimes the chalk does prevail. You know, if George Kurtz is out there listening somewhere, I'm sure his money line parlays are doing quite well, because the Red Sox, who are considerable favorites, right around minus 150 today with Brian Bayo on the mound, they are in front at Fenway, 6-3, and looking to add more with a man on third, bottom 7 at the moment against the Cleveland Guardians, opener of that series. And so, you know, at this point, you could invest in the 10.5 if you would like to, if you think Boston or even Cleveland is going to tack on more runs. If you go to the over on that, that is minus 132, just to mention it. The New York Mets, a lot of people expected a bounce back today after you know, a couple of games in which the offense was kind of a no-show. And the most prevalent play that I saw involving this game from people in the space today, just the over. Just take the over. And that absolutely crushed. It is 10-8 in Detroit right now, with the Mets leading that game top 9. Blue Jays hanging on at the moment, up 4-3 in Cincinnati against the Reds, but 2 men on, second and third for Cincinnati, bottom 9, 1 man outs. That game far from over as it sits at the moment.
Looks like Cincinnati
4-4,
might have
White
just
Sox.
played it a couple runs, Adam. This game
You're right.
has been
They just
weird.
walked it off. It's over.
Because I am on the Reds today, and unfortunately I was one of the few that was on the under in that Detroit and Mets game. But I am rooting for the Mets to prevail there. So far, so good as we head to the top of the ninth there in Detroit. But that Reds game was wild. They were leading most of the time 2-1. And then in the top of the ninth inning, Toronto comes back to make it 4-2. They scored 3 runs in the top of the ninth inning. Then the Reds in the bottom half of the inning get those runners on base. And next thing I know, I looked up and from 4-2, it was 4-4. And then you and I come on the air. We're going through a couple of conversations here. And I look down and it's 4-3. Like they took a run off the board for some reason for Cincinnati. Must have been a review or something. As you said, runners at second and third, still only 1 out. And then bang, somehow they get the walk-off there. And I'm happy about that because I have a season win total to the over on the Cincinnati Reds. And I believe we're just about 9 or 10 wins away from cashing that ticket at this point.
Marte, 2-run single, so you are home today. 5-4 Cincinnati avoids the collapse and gets the exciting win. So that game is finished. Other games in progress. White Sox and Twins, they are even at 4 right now. Top 7. The Astros, they were popular today. Up 5-3 at home against the Angels. That game is sitting in the top of the 7th. The Athletics and the Cardinals. This game is not in Sacramento, but it has still produced offense. 8 runs so far. 6-2. The A's are leading, and that one is top 7 and also 2 men aboard, second and third, similar to what we were just saying with the Reds, except the A's trying to tack on and increase what is already a 4-run lead. Braves, Cubs just getting underway, and we have other games that are in front of us as well, including, may as well just bring them up now, and then we can get back to the in-game, Brady, because the Giants, your Giants, at Colorado. That game is starting in about 3-4 minutes. And the Phillies and Brewers with an interesting pitching matchup. Mizorowski, the former All-Star. I mean, I guess not former. He is an All-Star, sort of an unjust All-Star, and he's played like it of late as well. But Mizorowski is on the mound. The Brewers, minus 150-ish favorites at home against Walker and the Phillies. Any plays on either of these two games that'll get started momentarily?
Yeah, I don't have a play on the Braves and the Cubs game, but I think that's a pretty interesting one. The Cubs is a slight favorite there with Strider versus Ray. Atlanta coming off of that Sunday night baseball situation where they got a win, they avoided the sweep, and now they go on the road to Chicago. I kind of lean towards the Braves side here, but I don't like the situation of backing that team that goes on the road after a Sunday night baseball game. We know that has not been a profitable scenario. I did get involved in the most wins in the month of September market last night, Adam, after our show. Our friends over at Circus Sports offer that bet. I was unsuccessful in the month of August. I had a couple of teams that got close, but the Brewers were just unstoppable last month. They ran away with that crown for the most wins in the month of August. I was on the Tigers and the Mariners, who came close, but no cigar for sure. So I tried it again here in September, the last full month of regular season baseball. And I tried the San Diego Padres, who on paper have the very easiest schedule in Major League Baseball. They're the favorites in this market at 5-1 to have the most wins. Of course, they start off with a series with the Orioles here today at home. Hopefully they can get a win. That one starts 6:40 Eastern, 3:40 Pacific. Dylan Cease on the hill for the Padres. And then I also played the Cubs, so that involves this game here where I kind of lean Atlanta, but I don't like that Sunday night baseball situation, but I'm rooting for the Cubs. I need the Cubs to get victories as I pursue that most wins in the month of September bet that I made. The Cubs were plus 925 in that one. And then the biggest dog I took, I went back to the well with the Mariners because they have a relatively easy schedule as well. And again, what these three teams all have in common too, Adam, they're all, pursuing playoff positioning and, a possible pennant for their respective leagues. So, it's not like a team that's just running out the string here and has mailed it in. These are all contenders that do have, again, on paper, what looks to be easy schedules in the month of September. And the Mariners, I got them at better than 13-1. So Seattle, the Chicago Cubs, and the San Diego Padres, who I'm on for the most wins in September.
I tell you, Brady, you must have a really, solid, strong heart, because that is not a market for the weak. Not, I understand like scoreboard watching toward the end of a season when your team is in a pennant race or you're chasing a playoff spot, that sort of thing. You have just decided consciously you are going to invest in a month-long daily scoreboard watch, which, that would stress a lot of people out. So good on you.
Not that I have any season win totals going either, So yeah, the sweat level is real low here in Las Vegas. There's no humidity though, so we don't sweat a whole lot out here anyway.
Nah, it's that dry heat. Well, come on back. Stick around.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, so we are going to be talking about the Packers, the Buccaneers, the Panthers in depth throughout this show here tonight as we continue our team-by-team previews of the NFL. We will also have Ryan McIntyre, Sports Gambling Podcast Network, join us a little bit later in the program to talk all things college football, reactions to Week 1, and, of course, the preview of tonight's main event, Belichick, North Carolina, against TCU. Should be fun. But we're talking through some baseball here, Brady. Again, a few games just underway, some that are wrapping things up. Just to make note, the Guardians, I know this is a team that, you are pulling for in terms of wins. The Red Sox, I'm always rooting for in terms of my own fandom, but also I do have a bet on Boston to win the division from before the season, which, if I remember right, it was right around plus 450, 470, something along those lines. I would love to see that one come home, obviously, as we sit at the moment. The Red Sox are 3.5 back of the Blue Jays. That was entering play today, but they are up 6-4 in this game, top 8 at Fenway against the Guardians. I bring it up because the Guardians did just play to run, so it is now a 2-run game. So the odds, if you were to look at it, I'm looking at FanDuel here, it's still 9-1 if you wanted to invest in Cleveland to come back. And I will remind people, the Red Sox during this stretch of good play have been unbelievable in the bullpen. So, just again, bear in mind where team strengths are when they're running hot, and so far pitching has been great for Boston. The total is 10.5, which is plus 110 to the over. It's going to the bottom of the 8th. So you know that at minimum you have 6 outs still to work with, and if you have any more than that, you've cashed your bet, obviously, because you just need 1 run to come across. Do you think it ends at 6-4, or is that worth going after the plus money in your mind?
I don't think we're done scoring runs yet. I think both of these teams are really fighting for their playoff lives. You mentioned the Boston Red Sox looking to possibly secure that division. They're in the thick of the race there. They're well inside the wild card race in the American League, but they may have bigger and better hopes than that. And they've been playing great baseball really ever since the Rafael Devers trade. And the Yankees have finally come around, both of these teams starting to put some pressure on those Toronto Blue Jays, who just, by the way, lost in the 9th inning to the Cincinnati Reds earlier today. So an opportunity for Boston to gain another half game, and Cleveland really pushing as well. And I'm certainly pushing for them too. I have a season win total bet on them over 82.5 wins. So I need to get to 83. That's 15 wins away. Now they can get there playing 2 or 3 games below 500 the rest of the year. But hey, every game that goes by in the loss column, makes you sweat a little bit more. So, yeah, I don't think we're done here yet. There's a lot on the line for both of these teams. Bayo's been great. Obviously, he's no longer in the game anymore, but he's really turned his season around for Boston. Got off to a shaky start. That entire pitching lineup for Boston, it's no longer just Garrett Crochet. The whole team has really come around after getting off to a shaky start.
No, you're right. Crochet might very well be the Cy Young Award winner in the American League. He has been tremendous. But then behind him, Bayo and Lucas Giolito, who we saw obviously earlier this weekend. These two guys both have since mid-June, let's say, over the last, what are we, at the beginning of September, obviously? So over the last 2.5 months, all 3 of those guys are pitching like aces. Now, I'm not saying that Bayo is a clear-cut number 1. He's certainly not when you have Crochet in front of him, or the Giolito is a number 1. He wouldn't be on, really any team, I wouldn't think right now. But Bayo probably would be a number 1 on a number of teams across Major League Baseball. It just so happens, again, Crochet is in front of him. So this American League East race, though, is really interesting because, as you noted, the Blue Jays, by collapsing there in the 9th after the early heroics in the top of the inning, wind up losing, and so the Red Sox now 3 games back if they win their 2.5. If they're even at that point with the New York Yankees, who don't play today, so you would have Toronto in first in the division, and then the Yankees and the Red Sox each 2.5 back. Now, all 3 of these teams, if you are into win probabilities or playoff probabilities, all of that stuff, and you don't think the Red Sox are going to have another chicken and beer 2011 kind of incident, for those that remember, all 3 of these teams have 98, 99-ish% chances or probabilities of making the postseason. It's just a matter of where they fall. But if you look at the odds right now, I think this is actually pretty interesting. To win the division on FanDuel, the Blue Jays are still a pretty heavy favorite, all things considered. When you think about the fact, Brady, that you still have a month of baseball to go, and it's only 2.5 games against 2 teams, minus 165 feels like a pretty juice number. And then the Yankees at plus 230, because in part they're the Yankees. And then I mentioned what I got on the Red Sox preseason. You can get something pretty similar to that right now. With how well you have watched them play in recent months, plus 450 on Boston to win the division. If you just want to talk about value, I don't know how you ignore that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point you bring up. I was just trying to bring this up here. I believe the Yankees have a pretty easy schedule. Let me see if I can find this here. And I think that's where you'd want to go. If you're thinking about getting involved in a market like that to win this division late in the game here with a month left in the season, I think you want to look at the schedules, because obviously that's a huge part of this. Okay, easiest schedule remaining. in Major League Baseball, and the Boston Red Sox, fairly difficult. They've got 3 games with the Yankees, 3 games with the Detroit Tigers, 3 games with Toronto. That can be both good and bad, right? And then 3 games with the Indians, who, of course, they're playing right now. They also play the A's, the Rays, and the Diamondbacks on the easier side. Toronto, basically the same thing. Play the Yankees, play the Astros, play the Red Sox, play the Royals. The Yankees do have an easier road. They will play Detroit and Boston, but they also play the Twins, who they absolutely own. They play the White Sox, and they will play the Baltimore Orioles as well 7 more times before the year is done. So, again, if you're going to invest on anybody other than the Toronto Blue Jays, it looks like the Yankees have the best shot according to the schedule.
Some updates for you. Again, the games that are in progress right now, the White Sox and Twins, they are still 4-4 in the 7th, although the Twins in the bottom of that inning do have a man on second with 1 down. Opportunity to take a lead and right around minus 200 favorites to come back and do so. Athletics, they did tack one on. It is 7-2 leading in St. Louis. We've got some scoring in the games that are just underway. 1-0 Braves in Chicago, 1-0 Giants in Colorado. Both those games in the first inning. No score, Phillies and Brewers.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
In-game live game day here on SportsGrid. And Brady, we were just chatting during the break. Now, I know that right now, as we get into September, we're not used to necessarily doing a whole lot of golf talk, but you brought to my attention the Ryder Cup. We got some news there on the European side.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. We're just a little over 3 weeks away from obviously the United States versus the European side at Bethpage Black, not too far from you in New York, a public course that has hosted a couple of U.S. Opens, a big boy golf course where bombers typically prevail. We've seen Tiger Woods win a U.S. Open there, and then also Lucas Glover, who doesn't exactly fit the bomber role. But Luke Donald, the captain of the European side, made made his selections. Of course, Thurston Lawrence wins the European Masters, the British Masters. I can't remember exactly what the name of the European or DP World Tour event was that just finished up on Sunday. But the South African, he gets the victory. And today, Luke Donald, not long ago, announced who his captain's picks would be. And I tell you, I really, this European team is loaded, Adam. You know a lot of these names: Ludwig Aubert, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, Rasmus Højgaard, Victor Hovland, Shane Lowry, Robert McIntyre, Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Justin Rose, and Sepp Straka. That is a pretty darn good squad that'll be invading Bethpage Black in a few weeks from now. Now, if you look historically at what has happened here in the last decade or so, the home team has been dominating. When, in every 2 years they play the Ryder Cup and they alternate, on European soil or American soil. It was a couple years ago in Italy that Europe kicked our tail. Now, of course, 2 years later, we're on American soil at Bethpage Black. I want to say it goes back to like whenever we were at Medina in Chicago. I think that's like around 2012, 2014. That's when the European side came back with the miracle at Medina. That's what they call it. On Sunday, a huge comeback, and they beat us on our home turf. That was the last time where the road team won, so to speak. But I bet Europe this year, Adam, and I got it at plus 145. If there's two different markets here, you have just who's simply going to lift the trophy, meaning if it's a tie, Europe will lift the trophy because they are the defending champions. So if you're going to bet on who's going to win it, they would have to win it outright. And then you also have tie as an option in that market. In that market, the European side is about plus 140. In simply just to lift the trophy market, the European side is about plus 110. I bet them in the market to win, with a tie as an option at plus 145. I think plus 145 with that lineup against the United States team. I'll read you off that United States team, okay? You've got that guy, Mr. Scheffler. He's pretty good.
Heard of him.
Sam Burns. He's been very good this year. Patrick Cantlay has not had a good year. Bryson DeChambeau should be an excellent player for this golf course. Harris English, I like. Ben Griffin, rookie, never played in a Ryder Cup before. Russell Henley, very solid. Colin Morikawa hasn't had a great year. Xander Schauffele, been injured most of the year. J.J. Spawn, this is new territory for J.J. Spawn. Now a major champion, never played in a Ryder Cup before. Scotty Scheffler, okay, he's fine. Justin Thomas, been hot and cold. And then Cameron Young, who I really like, never played in a Ryder Cup before, but he loves Bethpage and he can bomb the ball. But, you just look at that roster there. Why are the Europeans a plus 145 dog in my mind? Is it only home course advantage here?
Well, that's what I was just about to ask you, except I wasn't going to bring up the home course, which is a very viable point. I was going to say, are the Americans only favored because of Scotty Scheffler? Because you run down those two rosters, and it doesn't really sound like, not that I'm not pro-country, obviously, but it doesn't really sound like the USA should be the favorites in this one.
Yeah, it's so much about home turf and this trend that we've seen, again, for about the last decade or so, where the home team has held serve. But at a plus 145 price and looking at those rosters, and I didn't bet a lot of money on it. I think the Ryder Cup and these types of events or golf events that are a little bit challenging to bet on. So not a huge investment here, but I thought it was worth a shot because that European roster is loaded.
If we have some time, we can delve a little deeper into that market. Obviously, the Ryder Cup, which is always fun to bet. I mean, it truly, and I'm not just saying this because he's here. Some of the most money I've ever made betting golf was blindly tailing Brady on the Ryder Cup, okay? Just letting you know.
playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. In-game live game day here on SportsGrid. Again, plenty of baseball going on. We got that big college football game tonight. Bill Belichick. So, we're doing so much NFL talk leading into the season. It still kind of bugs me that for the last year plus, Bill Belichick hasn't been part of that conversation, at least not on the field. I guess he's been part of the conversation, but he has not been in any way, shape, or form connected to the Green Bay Packers. And we are going team by team across the NFL. We're going to talk about the Packers here because this team is fascinating. Now, before we welcome in our guest, who we are thrilled to have for the next couple of segments, and obviously people want to hear about the new guy in town, not to mention the injury that apparently Micah Parsons is dealing with, let's just give you some updated odds as it relates to the Packers and what to expect here this upcoming season in the NFC. So we're looking at an over-under of 9.5 wins on FanDuel that is heavily juiced to the over, minus 160, plus 135 to the under. Odds to win the NFC North, plus 160. To win the conference, plus 650. The Super Bowl, obviously those odds have climbed a little bit, 12-1, minus 192 to simply make the playoffs. So wild card or otherwise, plus 154 to miss. So coming off this 11-7 season, 8-9-1 against the spread, what can we expect from Green Bay this coming season? Let us bring in Ryan Wood, covers the team, does a great job doing so there for USA Today and that network of staff, a great group. By all means, you should check it out in terms of the coverage, team by team, not unlike what we do here. But Ryan on Twitter at @ByRyanWood. Welcome to the program. How are you?
Hey, we were just talking right before. Quiet Labor Day weekend here in Green Bay. Nothing big. No, obviously a bomb went off in the NFL world right here, and Green Bay is the epicenter. It's been fascinating few days here.
Well, and I think it has to very quickly start with Micah Parsons, who, as if the just acquisition wasn't enough, and giving up the multiple firsts and trading away Kenny Clark and just bringing in a generational talent, a 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, a defensive rookie of the year, and just a stud for years to come if he can stay healthy. That brings us back to that if, right? Already reportedly dealing with an injury. To read from Adam Schefter on Twitter, Micah Parsons has an L4, L5 facet joint sprain in his back, possibly receiving an injection before Sunday's game against the Detroit Lions if needed to help him play. I joked earlier, look at Jerry Jones dealing away damaged goods like he knew something. But what does this mean for Parsons in Green Bay?
over the long term, you can't possibly imagine that it means much of anything. Now, there's some questions in the short term, like can he play Sunday, and if so, how many snaps? But those questions were going to exist after not participating in training camp regardless. I mean, they have to ramp him up. They have to build him up the right way. They are going to be very cautious because he is now right up there with Jordan Love as the franchise, right? I mean, this is a massive long-term investment, making him by far the highest paid non-quarterback in league history at $47 million a year. He's paid like a lot of quarterbacks now. They're going to treat him with kid gloves. They are going to be very, very careful. With that said, Micah Parsons had his first practice today. I have a hard time imagining he would have stepped on the field even without pads on if the back was a long-term concern. I can't imagine that they would have paid him that 4-year, $188 million extension and given a pair of first-round picks and given up Kenny Clark if the physical didn't check out long-term. So this is a short-term question. We will see week 1. Obviously, week 2 is a Thursday night game here at Lambeau Field against the Commanders. So maybe for the first couple weeks that those questions linger. Long-term, I imagine it's a non-factor.
I think that's well said, Ryan. I think it makes a lot of sense. And thank you for clarifying that, because it impacts a lot of things that we're going to be doing here, especially from a betting perspective, the first couple weeks. And I think that's where it gets really interesting for me. We're looking at this week 1 schedule and the Green Bay Packers at home hosting a division opponent in the Detroit Lions, who a lot of people have a lot of different skepticism about, with Ben Johnson leaving. The Packers a short favorite at 1.5 points. They bring in Micah Parsons. That goes to 2.5 pretty quickly. And I wonder if it's a perfect time to go the other way and take the Lions. Are we overreacting? I know this is a huge, like Adam said, a generational player. But is this creating some value on a pretty darn good Detroit Lions team in week 1?
Yeah, I don't know who wins Sunday, but Micah Parsons or no Micah Parsons, the Packers know, because they're a divisional opponent, that they have to play the Detroit Lions twice. If the Packers could have their dream situation, if they could pick, okay, got to play this team twice, pick whatever time you'd pick them to play once. It would be week 1 at home against an opponent in the Lions that are breaking in 2 new coordinators on both sides of the ball. It can't lay up any better than that. Now, that means that they have to go out there and win, right? I mean, that's the pressure for this team, because they absolutely know in that locker room the Detroit Lions are the hunted. That is who they're trying to chase down in this NFC North now. They are the hunter, but they're getting it exactly the way that they would like. 2 new coordinators, offense, defense, at home. And, oh, yeah, Micah Parsons might also be playing for you this week. That helps too. So that it's a favorable matchup from that end. They just have to go and make it favorable.
Obviously, he joins a team that was 5th in total defense last year, 6th in points against. There was some turnover. J.R. Alexander, for instance, is gone. Eric Stokes is gone. You have TJ Slayton is gone as well. But the offense in particular, I know Parsons is always going to be the headline story as it relates to this Packers team right now. But the offense is just always fascinating to me. Again, as Brady said, from a betting component or a daily fantasy or season-long drafts or whatever, it's, you know what Jordan Love is, provided obviously he stays healthy. And he missed a couple games last year after that early season injury. So all hail Malik Willis. But around him, it's a team that continues to, really ever since Devontae Adams, not have that clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. You look around last year, and Josh Jacobs great, obviously, out of the backfield. But you have, in Jaden Reed at not even 900 yards, Christian Watson at 620, Romeo Doubs at 600, Dontavian Wicks at 415. I'll include Tucker Kraft because he's a prime target at right around 700. So you could do the whole favorite receivers, the open receiver kind of mindset, but does there need to be that number 1? And also, I'll just mix this in, how does Matthew Golden fit in now?
As part of the rotation of a very egalitarian passing game, and it's been that way since Jordan Love became the starting quarterback. Long gone are the days of Aaron Rodgers zeroing in, locking in on Devontae Adams for 15 targets each week, no matter what. That is no longer in any way resembling what this Packers passing game is. Jordan Love, since day 1 as a starter, going back to 2023, has been read your progressions, take what the offense gives you or the defense gives you, go through the playbook, and not force anything. And so it's very difficult to pigeonhole one target each week that's going to have a big game because you just don't know. It's a musical chairs in terms of who's going to be the feature guy this week. It has been for a couple of years now. Tucker Kraft, if you want to talk about number one targets, then you got to start with Tucker Kraft. Like he is the type. He's kind of like a George Kittle light. He has that type of potential. He's that classic inline blocker. The biggest thing that this Packers offense has needed to do this offseason, how to maximize Tucker Kraft as a playmaker. We're about to see if that happens. Matthew Golden is going to be a rookie that's not counted on over the long course of the season, but week one. He's carbon copy ready to go right now. That doesn't mean that you're going to get him double-digit targets every week or Tucker Kraft double-digit targets every week. It's egalitarian. That's how Jordan Love operates.
Ryan, great stuff, and I know we've got you for another segment here, but I'll just throw out this question. You can stew about it here for a minute while we go to break. But I want to talk about the offensive line a little bit. Obviously, they released David Bakhtiari a couple seasons ago, a Hall of Fame career for him. You get Jenkins moves into the center position. They draft a guy. They had tremendous injury luck last year, very healthy along that offensive line last season. Want to get your thoughts on what 2025 will bring in that protection unit for Jordan Love. Adam, I know we're getting ready to go to break here. We'll come back with Ryan on the other side.
Stay with us. We'll get into it. Ryan Wood here with us from the USA Today Network.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame and it gets on my nerves. Like for me being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We have Ryan Wood here with us talking about the Green Bay Packers, covers the team, does a great job for doing so for the USA Today Network. Ryan, just before we hit the break, Brady was asking you about the offensive line for the Packers. Some of the turnover in recent years, the injury luck that went their way throughout last year in terms of just, at least as best they could, keeping Jordan Love safe. I realized that, again, he had that early season injury and missed a couple of games. Generally speaking, a lot of positive injury luck along that line. What should we expect for the O-line here in 2025?
whenever you enter an offseason, that last sample size, that last exposure that you've got of your team, if you're a GM, really lingers with you. And for Brian Gutekunst, that last exposure of his team was getting its teeth kicked in by the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they got bullied. They got beaten, not just on the scoreboard. Their offensive line got out-toughed by a great Eagles defensive line. You talk about Hunted and Hunter. They know the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. They have to change that in order to get to where they want to go. This offseason was really, before Micah Parsons, this offseason was designed on building up that offensive line. They bring in Aaron Banks at left guard. They move Elton Jenkins to center, who they feel is a massive upgrade from Josh Myers, who's been the center the last few seasons. They draft Anthony Belton in the second round. He's going to at least be a depth piece, likely not a starter, but you're building up that depth that you might need because of attrition on the offensive line. And then, oh, by the way, you have a battle at left tackle between Rasheed Walker, who started 30-plus games consecutively over the past couple seasons, and Jordan Morgan, a 2024 first-round pick. They're just letting the strongest survive there, right? Whoever their best five is, so that you are tougher, so that you are better able to keep Jordan Love healthy, which they did not do last year. So knowing that Josh Jacobs is the engine that makes this offense go with that power run game, opening more holes with road graders up front, that's been the entire focus offensively. And now against the Detroit Lions, very good defense, they're going to be able to unveil that progress, whatever it has been, starting week one. So that's been the blueprint. We'll see if that unfolds that way.
Well, I was going to toss it to you, Adam. If you had another question for Ryan, he answered mine there about the offensive line. Did you have something? I can certainly chime in here, but did you have something on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about expectations for this team overall, and I know there are, not too many unknowns, obviously, because a guy like Micah Parsons, you fit him in, he's going to make any defense better. It was already, as we talked about, a very good top 5 ranked defense throughout 2024, but with so much of the offense, the key contributors coming back, we haven't really talked about Josh Jacobs, so we can't ask you about him. But first, just in terms of the win total, this was a very unique division last year in which you saw a Green Bay team win 11 games and still finish third in the division behind both Detroit and Minnesota. I happen to believe Minnesota is going to take a step back, and probably a pretty big one. I'm just not a J.J. McCarthy guy. And as Brady outlined earlier, we don't fully know, even if we think we know, we don't fully know what to expect from Detroit with 2 new coordinators. So what does that mean for Green Bay here in this coming season when it comes to believing they're going to win the division, or even just penciling them in as a playoff team that wins 10, 11, 12 games?
Well, think about what the Packers have been the past couple of years, right, in this new era post-Aaron Rodgers. The last 2 years, they've been the youngest roster in the NFL. They have also just gotten younger, trading Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons. Kenny Clark won the years going into their age 30 seasons. So they're even younger now. At the same time, they've made the playoffs the last 2 years, despite that youth and inexperience. So when you are a team in this league that has the combination of still being young, but a ton of big game experience, that is a dangerous combination to have. It doesn't mean anything you don't go out and win the games, but that's exactly the sweet spot of what you want to be fundamentally as a roster in this league. And then having that youth, having that inexperience, they just added Micah Parsons. Defensively, they don't just have Micah Parsons, but because they didn't have to get rid of Rashawn Gary in the trade, they might have the best tandem bookend pass rush in the NFL. All levels of that defense. They're expecting Edgerrin Cooper, who was twice voted NFC Defensive Player of the Week last season as a rookie, only played about 57% of the snaps, to take a massive jump, potentially be a superstar talent on the second level. They have the best safety in the league in Xavier McKinney. So much of that obviously is going to depend on who Jordan Love is going to be entering his third year, because defense is great. Power run game is great with Josh Jacobs. It's still a quarterback league. Can Jordan Love take a step in his third year as a starting quarterback? If he does, this has all the makings of a Super Bowl team. You've got youth still. You've got that big game experience. That should be the expectation for this team going into 2025.
Ryan, I'll just kind of expand upon what Adam is asking there a little bit as well. You look at how everything seemed to really fall into place very well for this team last year. We mentioned the injury luck on the offensive line. They were plus 12 in turnover margin, plus 23 in sack margin. You talk about that defense, plus 2 in penalty margin, 4th in the league in fumble luck. They had really good luck there as far as fumbling both opponents and themselves, but the schedule is very difficult this year, about the 25th or call it the 10th hardest schedule or so in the league. And obviously they play in an excellent division. And you spell a good picture there, the youth and the experience and the talent. Why does Vegas only have them at 9.5 wins? Doesn't that seem like they're expecting less out of what this team looks like on paper?
I think it's a tough division, for one. I think that probably waters everyone down in the NFC North, just the fact that it last year it was. As far as 9, I don't know. I'm not Vegas. All I know is when you look at the rest of the NFC, you see other contenders that also have major questions. Can Saquon Barkley be running back God 2.0 again, second straight season? Because if he's not, that's a very different team. He might have just had the best single season for running back in NFL history. Can he repeat that? That's a big question, right? Can the Lions, who have an uber-loaded, talented roster, how do they handle 2 new coordinators? That's a big question. Commanders, Jaden Daniels. C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love showed you last year, being a sophomore starting quarterback in this league, the slump there is very real. Can he avoid that? That's a big question. And for the Packers, can Jordan Love have another level? Can he go up and be more than he's been? Because if he is, they've got a lot of the makings of making a run.
We got time for a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Ryan. Josh Jacobs, repeat performance, yes or no?
I think so. Yeah.
There it is. Ryan Wood, USA Today. Thank you.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Brady, there was a lot of good stuff there out of Ryan Wood. Covers the Packers for USA Today, as I always do. I remind people, if you missed any of the chat, it will be available to you on the SportsGrid YouTube page this week. And a lot of really good insights in terms of just actionable information. That's what, by the way, just in case anyone isn't clear on this, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The audience turns over, and we've been doing these previews for weeks, months, as a matter of fact. You know, we don't have these beat writers on, as Ryan said, like, I'm not Vegas. We don't have these beat writers on to, you know, what do you think of the over-under? You know, is this guy going to go over or under this prop? You know, what do you think of the touchdown count? But we like to kind of weave some of these things in to get ultimately to drill down on what is really good, actionable information. And in the case of what we were just talking about with the Packers and with Ryan, you know, a lot of stuff. The Micah Parsons, what's he going to look like in particular the first couple of weeks of the season? Therefore, is there value, as you brought up, on the opponent when it's a short spread, as there is in week one with Detroit? But for me, the offensive side, I know that there are people out there that, you know, best ball drafts or fantasy, DFS, season long, what have you, or obviously just week to week prop betting or spread betting, totals, all of that, it looks like it's just going to be more of the same. Plus Mecole Hardman, plus Matthew Golden. You're going to have this huge collection of pass catchers, and put Josh Jacobs in the mix as well. This is like 8 guys that Jordan Love has at his disposal. And other than Kraft maybe being the number one target, as Ryan discussed, there isn't necessarily that clear-cut number one wide receiver option that he is going to be forcing the ball to, a la Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. And for me, that just makes this team, again, in the prop market specifically, a very difficult team to bet, and one that more often than not, I don't want to bet Brady.
Yeah, I think you're spot on as far as the prop market, because we just don't know yet if there is going to be a quote unquote favorite receiver, a security blanket, you know, all those terms that we use. And you know, Ryan put it well, that it's an equal opportunity employment situation there with everybody. Find the guy that's open and go to him. And, you know, it's worked pretty well for Jordan Love. And a lot of it'll come down to, you know, his protection from that offensive line. They mentioned, you know, that you put Jenkins in at center. They feel that's an upgrade. I don't know if he's played there before. He hasn't in the last few years that I'm familiar with anyway. They drafted a young kid to play tackle as well. I think a lot of it will come down to that position, you know, how that line is able to not only pass protect, but also run block, and did a great job run blocking for Jacobs last year. Parsons was really a need filler for maybe one of their greatest, you know, shortcomings. If you want to poke holes in that roster at all, it was probably the front seven. And you add Micah Parsons, it's like, you know, everything we're kind of talking about here preseason, and we're trying to prognosticate and handicap and figure out what 2025 might hold for this team. They just threw a wrench in the entire system for what we thought about the Green Bay Packers. And so now we're trying to wrap our head around that. Yeah, you might have absolutely a Super Bowl team here. We don't know yet. And now you have, you know, Micah Parsons is even going to start in week one, nursing a little injury with his back. So a really tough nut to crack, the Green Bay Packers. But the way it looks right now on paper, they look absolutely like a serious contender.
How do you feel about the win total? You brought it up, 9.5 feels a little bit low from Vegas, doesn't it?
Right. Well, and they had a lot of good luck last year. I mentioned the injury luck with the offensive line. You know, I mean, you get a couple injuries across that offensive line, and that changes things dramatically. You know, they were, and now I've got my, they were plus 23 in sacks. You'd expect that to probably be maintained, because they add Micah Parsons, and you know, they have some good rushers to begin with. But you know, if the offensive line again suffers some injuries, then they're probably going to give up more sacks as well. Turnover margin plus 12. You know, does that regress? Fumble luck, 4th in the NFL. Does that regress? So they had a lot of things fall their way that you would expect not necessarily to hold true again in a follow-up season. But, you know, Ryan made a great point. They have a lot of talent and a very young roster with great playoff experience. And now you bring in Micah Parsons. I think it's really hard to make a case one way or another on this team. I think you could go either way and make a good argument for it.
It's going to be a fun one to watch. Interesting team, obviously. Interesting division as well. But we're going to move to the NFC South when we come back. We already started it. We talked about, the Atlanta Falcons some. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame and it gets on my nerves. Like for me being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're back on the grid here. It's in-game live game day on SportsGrid, talking team by team across the NFL. We're up to the NFC South, and with Brady Cannon and Adam Kaufman, we're going to welcome in our next guest in just a moment to help us break down all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, listen, the New Orleans Saints, if we're looking at this division, they might be the worst team in the entire NFL. Carolina Panthers, I'm sorry. If you want me to take you seriously, you're going to need to prove it first. So this division ultimately is going to come down, I think, and most people think, to two teams. You're looking at the odds on your screen there. Tampa Bay, obviously a team that won the division last year and has that win total of 9.5, or Atlanta, with Michael Penix firmly in the driver's seat at quarterback now. Some of the odds, again, win total, 9.5 wins, minus money both sides, 105 to the over, 115 to the under, minus 105 to repeat as NFC South champions. 13-1 to win the conference, 27-1 to win the Super Bowl, minus 164 just to make the playoffs, plus 134 to miss. To educate us, Matt Matera joins us here, part of the Pewter Report. He is on Twitter at Matty4_Matera. Matt, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. I think when it comes to Tampa, you need to start with the offense. And starting with the offense probably leads us down a path of about 6 different questions, right? Liam Cohen is gone, now the new head coach in Jacksonville. And so what does the new OC there do in terms of just making this a team that represents once again on that side of the ball? But also Baker Mayfield he's not an old guy, but 1 year older. And now you have, I don't know, 47-year-old Mike Evans, 11 years deep in the league and 1,000 yards every single season. Chris Godwin, who is not going to come back until sometime in October at best, and we'll see what he looks like when he does off of the fractured leg. And then, there's no McMillan. It's just this. There are a lot of questions. How do we approach this offense?
I still think you approach this offense as a high-flying group that's going to put up a number of points. I understand all of the concerns, especially with Chris Godwin going to be out until October. Jalen McMillan's going to be out pretty much until their bye week, which I believe is week 9. Also, they're going to be missing their starting left tackle, Tristan Wirfs, who isn't just a great starting left tackle. He's arguably the best left tackle in the league. He's won All-Pro on the right side and on the left side. So you're probably thinking, well, with all of this, like, how are they still going to stay afloat? Emeka Egbuka, their first-round pick out of Ohio State, has been an absolute stud in training camp, in the preseason, in the little bit of time that he's been involved with the offense. He is a carbon copy of Chris Godwin. And you have to remember as well with this offense, yes, it's a new offensive coordinator with Josh Grizzard, but the Bucs have been down this road before. Dave Canales was their offensive coordinator 2 seasons ago. He goes to Carolina. Now Liam Cohen. But Josh Grizzard was here last season. So it's not like there's this new getting to know you type of factor. In fact, he was the third down coordinator for the Buccaneers, and they had the best third down efficiency in the league. So you're looking at an offensive group that brought everybody back along the offensive line. You still have Bucky Irving at running back, Rachaad White at running back as well. They're going to be a little bit more vertical in this offense than they necessarily were with Liam Cohen, which relied a lot on the yards after the catch. So Mike Evans, he's going to be downfield making those plays. I know he's still older, but he's still one of the best in the league to do it. And Emeka Egbuka, I'm so excited about what he's going to do in the offense this year. He can line up everywhere. He can go outside. He can go in the slot. They'll find different ways to get him the football. And I think he's going to make a big impact for this team early on. He's going to need to, because he's essentially their wide receiver too, with the other injuries to Godwin and McMillan.
Yeah, wide receiver U, the Ohio State University, produces them like none other these days. I wouldn't be surprised if he is very, very good at all. I'll tell you what, Matt, I think you answer some great questions there, but it still seems like the $64,000 question, is Josh Grizzard going to be able to match what Liam Cohen did? And that was great information there, that he actually coordinated third down. I did not know that. He was a passing game coordinator, and you're right, Baker Mayfield and company lit it up on third down last year. In fact, their offensive numbers were so good last year. That's where I have the question marks. And they improved so much from, let's go back to Byron Leftwich and then Canales. Liam Cohen was evidently a genius offensively. Can that be sustained?
I think it'll take some growing pains for sure, because we also have to remember the difference with Canales and Liam Cohen, and now Josh Grizzard and Liam Cohen, is that Liam Cohen had play calling experience going back to Kentucky and a little bit with the LA Rams. Dave Canales didn't have that at all when he was the offensive coordinator 2 seasons ago. And Josh Grizzard, while he was here last season, he has never called plays in the NFL with the exception of the past couple of preseason games. So I think early on, you might see that slow start for the Buccaneers as far as offensive production. I still think their defense is going to pick it up, and they struggled last year, but it'll be a nice balancing act for this group early on. Eventually, they will get to scoring 30 points per game. I have a ton of trust in Baker Mayfield. He finally gets to work with another coach for another season in a row. He hasn't had that in his entire career, going back to Cleveland and LA and the Panthers, and now with the Bucs. So they'll get to that 30-point threshold, especially when Tristan Wirfs comes back. But I think they're going to rely on running the football a lot more early on, because you have Bucky Irving, and he was such a stud last season. He was sensational as a rookie. They're going to rely on that veteran offensive line to get the ground game going. And then once the other receivers come back, once they're fully healthy, that's where you'll see them air it out a little bit more. So typically with running the football, you're going to chew up some clock, maybe not put up as many points. But I believe by November, December, this is going to be a machine of an offense and be one of the highest scoring offenses in the league.
FanDuel has Mike Evans' receiving prop at 1,000.5, which I just find amusing because, again, he
funny
has
number,
cleared
right?
the one. Yeah, well, because he's cleared 1,000 yards each of his first 11 seasons in the league. So, yeah, let's just assume he's going to do it again, even if it's 1,001 right there on the nose. Trends are our friends until they're not, I suppose. But at what point, I was joking about his age earlier, but at what point do we wonder, man, can this guy continue to just keep doing this? And it's not a question of his ability or athleticism or anything like that. It's simply the older you get, the more frequently injuries are going to come, or those hits they get a little bit harder. It's going to be tough to stay on the field for 15, 16, 17 games. Do you assume that, especially with all the attention he's going to get, even you mentioned Ibuka, but without McMillan, without Godwin, that he's going to be able to, as the featured guy regularly, continue to pull in that type of production?
I do. And he had to deal with this last season because Chris Godwin got injured in week 7 of last year. And there was a time where Jalen McMillan was injured as well. And Mike didn't have the help of Emeka Egbuka. There was a couple of other guys that stepped up.
Otten. Don't forget about Cade Otten.
Well, Cade Otten went on this monumental run because the Bucs were out with Mike Evans, who missed 3 games last season, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan. Cade Otten turned into like prime Gronk in those 3 games that they were missing Mike Evans. He will chip in here and there for sure. But the thing is, this record is so important to Mike Evans. He's a team first guy before anything else, but this record's so important to him. He could surpass Jerry Rice. He was able to get that 1,000 yards despite the fact that he missed 3 games. I know there's going to be a lot of attention on him, but that's why Josh Broussard is going to scheme operations to get him open. I believe he will get over 1,000 yards and shouldn't be too much of an issue for him.
We've got Matt Matera here hanging out with us from the Pewter Report, talking about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers, getting you ready for the 2025 season. Hang out. Brady will, Matty will, I will. We'll be back. More insights on the other side.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Matt Matera hanging out here with us from the Pewter Report. Pewter? What's the right way to say this, Matt? Am I right? Pewter
Report.
Good. Pewter Report. Nailed it right from the get-go. Well, this is why I even second-guess myself, Brady.
That
all right,
beautiful
we're talking about
gray,
a lot of the pass
silverish
catchers.
color that the Bucks have, pewter.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pewter, of course. Is that one of their is that their like rivalry color uniform that they're gonna, all these terrible uniforms that we're seeing coming out from the NFL pretty soon? It's not, we don't have the neon colors anymore. Now you might have pewter. You might have a pewter rivalry week color.
They had an all pewter jersey. It was actually a pretty nice jersey. They brought it out a couple of seasons ago, but this year it's all about the 50th year anniversary, so it's back to the creamsicle. But shout out to the creamsicle jerseys; they're nice.
Love that.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ultimate. So it's good to see Tampa, donning those. But all right, we were talking about a lot of the pass catchers. A guy who does catch a fair number of passes, but maybe more well known for what he does out of the backfield in terms of rushing the ball. That's Bucky Irving, who had a standout rookie season last year. 1,100 or so? Yeah, 1,122 was the rushing yard total. 8 rushing touchdowns to go along with another almost 400 yards receiving. His prop, not unlike Evans, 1,000.5, same number for the rushing yards out of Bucky Irving this year. And you look at that backfield, and really, it hasn't changed in an impactful way anyway. You still have Rachaad White there. Bucky Irving is very much the featured back out of the backfield. So do we think he does it again if he can stay on the field?
That's the big thing, is if he can stay healthy for an entire season, because Bucky, while so dynamic and a great runner, he is a tiny guy too. And it's tough to take those beatings game after game for 17 games in a season. And what helped Bucky last year a little bit too is the fact that he wasn't the starter right away. It took a little time before the Bucs really handed him the reins and said, okay, you're our guy, go out and, get over 100 yards per game. But his ability to make defenders miss, it's almost like second nature for him. Like, you can almost take it to the bank that he's going to make the first defender miss no matter what type of situation it is. So if he's fully healthy, even if he plays 15 out of 17 games, with the Bucs wanting to run the football more, again, because of the other injuries, I do think Bucky Irving will reach over 1,000 yards rushing this year. And he'll be even more of a threat in the passing game too, more than he was last season. Last year was a lot of like screens, short passes, swing passes. He showed this preseason he's a little bit more of a route runner than people realize. So excited for that aspect of his game too.
Matt, the defensive secondary last season gave up a lot of yardage, gave up a lot of points. They did not force a lot of turnovers. In fact, the turnover margin for the campaign for this team was -5. What have they done in the offseason? They did have some injuries in that part of the squad as well. What have they done in the offseason to address that, and how does that defensive secondary look in camp to you?
Yeah, so last year they only had 7 interceptions. So the entire mantra from Todd Bowles, who is a defensive coach, this entire offseason was ball hawks. I want ball hawks on this team. I don't care how you go about doing it. I don't care what position you play. I want ball hawks. And they addressed, with the exception of 2 offensive players with Ibuka and Tez Johnson, all they did was draft defensive players. They brought in Hassan Reddick, who obviously is not in the secondary, but improving that pass rush will certainly help out with the secondary too. In the secondary, one thing they did is they're moving Tyke Smith, who was their very talented nickel corner last season, played at Georgia. They're moving him to strong safety. You'll have a healthy Antoine Winfield Jr. That's very important. If he can get back to his all-pro playing ability from 2 seasons ago, that's big for this team. They drafted Benjamin Morrison, the very talented corner out of Notre Dame. Now, he's currently dealing with a hamstring injury. Doesn't look like he will be ready for the first game of the season. But one player that has really stood out that should help with the interceptions, turnovers, and all of that stuff, he was their 3rd-round pick, Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. He is flying all over the place. He's going to play their slot corner, which they use a majority of the time on defense anyway. He's tipping the ball. He's making interceptions. And if anything, they're really pushing the 2 guys that they have starting at corner, which is Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean. And Jamel Dean's in an interesting part of his career because he has no more guaranteed money after this season, so the Bucs can cut him or trade him if they want to, and there won't be a cap hit. But that's been the message delivered by the Buccaneers brass throughout the entire offseason. They've been aggressive. Last year, they played too soft zone, too far away. That's not the case this year. They are up at the line of scrimmage. They are punching and into the chest of the receivers right as the play gets going. So a little bit of a different philosophy, which has been important. Also, they really struggled with the tight ends last year. But this year they have inside linebacker Servassier Dennis going into his third year. He'll be the full-time starting inside linebacker. He's a great coverage inside linebacker, but he is a little injury prone. So if he can stay healthy, that will improve their secondary as well. But it's certainly a revamped group with a major focus on taking the ball away.
Matt, you already mentioned you think the offense is going to be a force as the season moves along. The odds makers would tell you that this is the Bucs division to lose. I think we need to at least consider the Atlanta Falcons with all the weapons they have if you get a representative performance throughout the season out of Michael Penix Jr. But you tell me, is this another division crown for Tampa Bay?
I honestly think there is a better chance that the Panthers catch the Falcons for second place than the Falcons catching the Bucs for first place. So yeah, I do think it is another division title for Tampa Bay. That would be 5 division titles in a row and 6 straight playoff appearances. I think the Bucs just have too much talent. They're the best team in the NFC South by far. The Falcons are dealing with some injuries as well along their offensive line, which should help Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby get after the quarterback. And for Atlanta, a lot of this relies on how good is Michael Penix. I mean, they choked down the stretch last season, and they had a chance to catch the Bucs, and they lost some tough games. They did sweep the Bucs last season, but they're going to have revenge on the mind when they meet in Week 1 in Atlanta.
Matt, just about 30 seconds left here. Do they go under or over the number of 9.5 wins this season?
I believe they're going to go over 9.5 based on playing in the NFC South and the fact that they've improved by 1 win every single season that Todd Bowles has been the head coach. Went from 7 to 8 to 9, 8 to 9 to 10. Why not get to 10 or 11 this year?
Pertinent question, considering that's a division you might be able to win with only 9 wins. Matt Patera, Computer Report. Thank you, Matt.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame and it gets on my nerves. Like for me being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Great insights on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Matt Matera, Pewter Report. Make sure you check him out there. But Brady, I think, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I felt anyway going into the conversation that Atlanta might put up a fight, but this ultimately should, I guess, barring more injuries than we already know about on the Tampa side, this should be the Bucs' division to lose as we kind of close things out there with Matt. I thought it was interesting that he said that Carolina, in his mind, has a better chance of finishing second than Atlanta has of finishing first. Personally, I disagree with that statement immensely, but that's why we do what we do, right? Because, right now everyone's 0-0 and it's clear skies, bright eyes, well, I don't know, whatever they said, and it wasn't that, but whatever they say in Friday Night Lights, let's all just free ourselves and look forward to football. I think that this is going to be maybe a more challenging division than Matt led on. I think that it's going to take a little bit offensively for Tampa to find its footing. And Atlanta, with maybe just, I don't know, some renewed confidence off of what they did at the end of last year, might come out of the gate pretty strong. Carolina, there are a lot of people that are expecting, we'll talk about the Panthers a little bit later on, a lot of people expecting Carolina to really take a leap this year. That doesn't necessarily mean playoff team, but it means don't get embarrassed on a weekly basis. And then, of course, you have the Saints, and, that should be 2 free wins for just about everybody in the division. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you and a little bit with Matt as well. I think Carolina will be fine. They went heavy in on their defense this year, and their defense was really bad last year. So many people want to talk about Bryce Young and his, shortcomings in his very short time in this league so far. I think Canales made him better, and I think he'll probably improve even more so in 2025. But it's the defense is really where Carolina has some issues, and they did address it in the offseason. They loaded up on the defensive side of the ball. Atlanta, conversely, I think has a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball, like Tampa Bay does. So it's pretty interesting, and Tampa Bay absolutely deserves to be the favorite here. But I've said this before when we spoke with D'Orlando Ledbetter about the Atlanta Falcons the other day. I am not a big fan of Raheem Morris as a head coach. I think he's done pretty well as a coordinator, defensive backs coach, wherever he's been. But so many times we see that vice president, so to speak, be thrust into the role of CEO, and they don't always have as much success. And we saw this guy really botch some late game clock management and situations last year in his first year as head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I worry about that, possibly holding him back, maybe costing them a win or two. I think Todd Bowles obviously has a lot of experience. I worry about Liam Cohen being gone, but I thought Matt did a great job there of, exploring and explaining how this offense should be able to stay on track. New Orleans, I think everybody knows it's a rebuilding year, and we don't expect much out of them, and I don't think they're going to factor in, and I don't think Carolina's going to win the division. But I think they'll put up a little bit of a fight, and maybe they get to 8 wins, 7 wins, something like that. And like you said, you could win this division with 9 wins. So, that's pretty thin territory there. If you're saying you got to get to 9, all 3 of those teams could do that, right? So I'm with you that I believe the competition will be pretty fierce. Tampa Bay is clearly the favorite in my mind, but I don't think it'll be a cakewalk.
So how about this? In light of everything you just said, and I think we share a brain on this one, does that mean only one team out of this division makes the playoffs? Because, we obviously see some deeper divisions across the board in the NFC, but also if we're talking about a team potentially only winning 9 games and winning that division, that means even if another team, let's just say another one has 9 and loses it based on the tiebreaker, I don't think that 9-win team is going to be in the postseason because I think there'll be enough 10-win second place teams elsewhere.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the AFC South and the NFC South, maybe the 2 weakest divisions in football. And it seems like it's been that way for a minute. I think only one team is coming from each of those divisions as far as into the postseason. And that'll, of course, be the division winner. I wasn't so sure about Tampa Bay coming into this conversation. I think Matt did some some help in convincing me that this team should get it done. But I don't know. None of the teams in that division really scare me, and I think they all have some very identifiable flaws.
Be a fun exercise. Maybe when we're back together Saturday next week, I know the NFL season will be underway at that point, so it'll kind of be cheating unless you do it earlier. Let's list all our playoff teams.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. It is in-game live game day here on SportsGrid. So we have talked about two teams so far in this one. We still need to obviously continue on with the NFC South. We'll talk about the Carolina Panthers coming up in about a half hour, get some thoughts on college football. Remember, you got one last gigantic game remaining here tonight to conclude week one. Bill Belichick, Chapel Bill, his North Carolina collegiate coaching debut at home, 3.5-point dogs against the favored and also offensively elite TCU. More and more I read about this game, it seems like people are just pounding the over, independent of how you feel about the spread. And we'll talk more about that one. Ryan McIntyre will join us in about an hour to help us break it down as well. But Brady, what on the diamond is going on? How about this? A lot of games obviously are done, but we have some higher scoring games about midway through in progress. The Braves up 6-1 in Chicago against the Cubs. That is in the bottom of the fifth inning, so Atlanta is pouring it on right now. Brewers trying to do the same thing, up 5-1 at home against the Phillies. That's top five, but Philadelphia does have the first two men aboard and nobody out. Meanwhile, the Giants, your Giants, already up 4-0 in Colorado, have the bases loaded, 2 outs right now in the fifth, so an opportunity to really open that one up potentially. And of course, 3 more games that have even yet to get underway. We have the Orioles and Padres starting in a little over an hour. Mariners and Rays after we are done. Rangers and Diamondbacks as well. Anywhere on the live market that you would jump in at the moment?
Well, I can tell you, I think I'd bet that the Giants are going to score a couple more runs here. I've got one scoreboard I'm looking at that says it's now 6-0. So it looks like FanDuel just hasn't updated it yet, but it looks like they've still got bases loaded and 2 out, but now have 6 on the board at Colorado. I thought about possibly betting the under in this game because if you looked at the 2 pitchers going into this matchup, Adam, you had one guy for the Giants who has not seen too much action at all in Tang, just 1-3 on the season, and then Dolander for Colorado, 2-11 on the season, and they both had very very ugly looking ERAs as well. And I said, and the total, we know Coors Field, it was at 11.5, and I thought it might be a good contrarian move here to play the under because on the surface it looks like, oh, these pitchers are awful. They're going to score 27 runs in this ball game. And I'm kind of glad I didn't mess with it at this point. And now FanDuel's updated it here. 6-0 indeed. San Francisco Giants still batting, I believe, with 2 out in the bottom of the 6th. You would have to believe Colorado's not going to be shut out at home, right? I'm not seeing what the in-game total is here, Adam. I don't know if you have that available to you.
It's just gone to the bottom of the 5th inning. So the Giants ended at the 6th. So it's 6-0. So that has ultimately, I guess we just care the most. Unless you believe in Colorado coming back, I'll mention the 6-1 on the money line. But the total is 9.5. So bottom 5, you still need 4 more runs in this game to get there. And the juice is to the over ever so slightly, -118.
All of a sudden, the Giants' offense has woken up in the last 10 days or so. They reeled off about 6 or 7 wins in a row. I think they lost one, and then they started winning again. It looks like they're on their way to another win here. Probably too little too late to get into that wild card race with only a month left in the season, but they are starting to put some runs on the board. And like I say, I just can't believe Colorado gets shut out at home. I got to believe they put at least 3 runs up here. And I don't think the Giants are done yet either. I'd go over in this one. The Phillies starting to come back in Milwaukee as well. Top of the 5th inning, they've got a runner at third base, and I think just 1 out. Now 5-3. It was 5-1. Philadelphia could be a good play there on the money line. And again, my screen is locked up as far as what the price is there. Could have gotten a better price certainly a few seconds ago before they drove those 2 runs in. But, you're halfway through the baseball game right now. Not a bad price. Halfway through the baseball game, and they're only down by a pair. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. I probably give a slight edge to Philadelphia as far as who the better club is. I know Milwaukee's at home, and they've been just absolutely on fire for the last, 45 days or so. But, at 2-1 or so, down by 2 runs with half a ball game left, might not be the worst investment you could make.
Nope. Just moved to +220, and I guess that's just based on the count.
Maybe a second out or something.
Not yet. At least not on FanDuel yet. I mean, it doesn't mean it hasn't happened, though, as you alluded to. Sometimes the book is just a little bit behind. But so that one game is tightening up a little bit here, 5-3, and maybe more so in a matter of moments. And I do think ultimately we're going to see a Giants blowout win in Colorado. But to your point, I'm not so sure the Rockies end up getting shut out. So now it has moved to 10.5. on that total versus the 9.5, and at more juice is that at that. It's not even that it's gone 9.5 to 10.5. And by the way, now you can get it at plus money. No, it was -118 at 9.5. Now it's -138 at 10.5. So it's moving, and that's with nobody on base either. So I don't know what has changed necessarily, but I still like it. Not a big play, not a full unit play or anything like that, but I do think we're going to continue to see scoring in that game.
And the Cubs are getting their act together. They're now on the board with a run to close that gap just a little bit. Atlanta leading there now 6-2. The total in that game has gone to 11.5 in the live market, and it's juiced to the over at -125. I'd probably want to take the over before I took the under, Adam. I mean, Atlanta, 6 runs, half the baseball game. They're already at 6. The Cubs, like I said, their bats are looking like they're starting to wake up here a little bit. We know the Atlanta bullpen has really struggled really all season long. So, yeah, I mean, I could see all 3 of these games going over the total here in the late window.
Orioles Padres, as I mentioned, coming up in about an hour. Mariners Rays after we're done. Rangers and Diamondbacks as well to conclude the day. Any thoughts on any of these three games?
I do like the under in the Padres game. I think that's a pretty decent pitching matchup there with Bradish and Cease. San Diego obviously just 2 games back of the Los Angeles Dodgers in that division heading into today's action. They have the easiest schedule on paper in the month of September. 155, I think that speaks to, Baltimore, a decent pitcher here on the bump. They're not a very good team, but they're kind of like the Los Angeles Angels. They have competitive moments. Okay, they pulled out a win against the Houston Astros. I think they dropped 2 out of 3 in that series. They're able to come up with a win and beat some good teams now and then. They are not completely awful, even though they're not a great team. They are one of the weaker teams in all of baseball. But I think that price is suggesting that Baltimore has a puncher's chance here with who they have on the hill. Otherwise, you would think the Padres would be a much bigger favorite than that. So I'm not going to mess with a side here. But I think that the 7.5 total is indicating that the odds makers don't expect a whole lot of offense here because of this pitching matchup. I'd play under the total in this one.
You mentioned some of these September investments that you have made, obviously looking for most wins by a ball club throughout the month, that type of thing. But in terms of the general day-to-day betting, as races tighten up, as playoff pushes get stronger, as the week start to fall off, all of that, has it altered the day-to-day betting philosophy for you for this sport at all? Not to mention just the transition to football and your focus going there.
It hasn't, Adam. The one thing I did is just, I've lowered the risk on a day-to-day basis after the All-Star break because I think it is more volatile. You have the trade deadline. Obviously, that's come and gone. But I think – and now you're into a portion of the season where maybe it kind of corrects itself again, where you have teams that are vying for playoff, lives and whatnot, become that much more competitive, and you have other teams that start to mail it in a little bit. Sometimes all that stuff's tough to read. So the bottom line is I've dumbed down the risk a little bit here in the latter part of the season.
We will come on back, hit on some Belichick, some UNC, TCU. Again, just a couple hours away. Stay with us here on SportsGrid.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you in-game live game day, and as we have mentioned, I don't know how many times over the last couple of days throughout the college football conversation, that week 1 wraps up tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, in North Carolina, the debut of Chapel Bill. The only question is, will he have a cutoff hoodie in his North Carolina blue? That's what I want to know. You know, Michael Jordan and Mia Hamm and all these, you know, UNC greats are expected to be in attendance. This is a big deal, Brady Cannon. 3.5 point spread. The home team is the dog. However, TCU in its first game at North Carolina, by the way, first time ever. And these two teams, they have played each other 3 times all time, and the Tar Heels are 3-0. Here's the thing, that doesn't mean anything at all. What should we expect in Belichick's debut tonight against maybe a slightly or increasingly underrated TCU Horned Frogs team on the other side?
Well, we might be able to expect that there will be a little bit of bunting around, you know, some of the rafters in the stadium or maybe around the walls, because you said this is a big deal. And my old friend John Madden told me that, you know, if you walk into a place and you see bunting, then you know it's a big deal. So maybe we'll see some of that. That was a great segment. Madden used to come on way back when I was working in San Francisco, and had a great little spiel on bunting and all that good stuff. But yeah, there just might be some bunting, because it is a big deal as we wrap up the Labor Day holiday there in Chapel Hill. And I'm with you that I think the TCU team is flying under the radar here a little bit because of all the hype and, you know, the Chapel Bill and rightly so. It's a big event, you know, coaching his first ever college game. It's fun. I think it's great and a very cool place to do so at North Carolina. What a gorgeous campus that is. And our friend Colby Dant is there on site to watch this one. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. But with all of that circumstance that is surrounding this event, everybody's forgetting about the Horned Frogs here, who are a pretty darn good team. And you mentioned all that money here coming in on the over as of late. I've seen it tick up a point. It was at 53.5. I believe when we started the show, I'm seeing 54.5 now. And maybe that ties into Sonny Dykes, because this guy never met an offense he didn't like. And you know, he's not always been known for defense at all, but the guy has always put up points, it seems, wherever he's been. Now, in this case here, with this edition of the Horned Frogs, first of all, they were very good defensively last year. And they have, I think that's one thing in their favor for this game. They have a lot of returning starters. I think their quarterback is now in his 4th year. He's a junior, I believe, playing his 4th year for the Horned Frogs. You've got a lot of returning starters, like I mentioned, which, of course, breeds experience. You've got a lot of continuity, you know, not a lot of changeover in the coaching staff and that type of thing. And a team that we know can score under a guy, you know, an offensive maven in Sonny Dykes, but also has a very good defense. I think it's going to be very tough sledding for Chapel Bill and the Tar Heels here. You know, we saw this line move. It was 2.5, if you recall, a while back. And I'm not talking like yesterday. I'm talking maybe a month ago or so. But we saw the initial move to TCU all the way up to 3.5. That's through some key numbers. We know that. I think TCU kind of gets it done, and it also feels a little bit contrarian too, Adam, because there's so much focus on arguably the greatest NFL coach of all time in this situation. Like you said, a big deal, and we're kind of forgetting about who probably is the better team here.
Well, and also, you bring up the continuity on the TCU side. I don't know if that will end up mattering for or against, but it is worth noting that on the North Carolina side, despite an offseason filled with distractions for Bill Belichick and making this move to North Carolina, everything going on with the girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, his business ventures and media obligations and everything else. I mean, Mr., you know, no noise and all of that stuff. There's been an awful lot of it in recent months. there are upwards of 70 newcomers on this roster for Bill Belichick. They have turned things over dramatically. Now, you're talking about what should we expect in game one. Let me read this to you from the Fayetteville Observer. The writer, Rod Baxley. If ever there was a guy that sounds like he writes for the Fayetteville Observer covering the North Carolina Tar Heels, it's Rod Baxley, 2 Ds. He writes, Bill Belichick gives a prediction on the game, by the way, and I'll give you that in a moment. Bill Belichick has an 0-2 record in his first game as head coach of a team, losing his debut with the Cleveland Browns in 1991 and sustaining a defeat to the, we just talked about them, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that was, for the Patriots there. That was the NFL, he writes. College football is wacky, weird, and wild, particularly in week one. UNC head coaches, if you like a trend, have won 4 straight openers in their debut, posting an overall record of 26-11-2. Bill Belichick, of course, the 40th head coach in UNC football history. His prediction is a close game that UNC wins 28-27. And I've Googled around, looked for a lot of predictions on this one. Most of them have TCU winning this game. And I would say a good chunk of those predictions have them winning by margin because, as you talked about, we have a pretty light spread at 3.5. I think the biggest discrepancy I saw was somewhere in the neighborhood of TCU winning by 13 points or so. So a couple touchdowns, not necessarily absolutely blowing doors. I guess what I find a little, and this is me not knowing nearly enough about the North Carolina football program. We'll get Ryan McIntyre's thoughts on it when he joins us coming up in a little while. I think of Belichick and Brady notwithstanding, obviously, I think of defense, and I think of defensive-minded head coach. And so, man, are we really going to get a game that's going to produce in the mid-50s points? Is UNC going to play a close game where it puts up between 25 and 30? Is that realistic to expect?
I'm with you. I'm leaning towards the under here. That's the trend that we've been seeing throughout this quote unquote opening weekend of college football. And I think we've been talking about that on the program. It looks like, and especially, you talk about the massive amount of turnover there on the roster for North Carolina, the transfer portal and NIL and all this stuff that is a part of college football these days. It contributes to lack of continuity. It contributes to chemistry taking a little while for these teams to find that groove. And I think we've seen that early on in these games so far, that the defense is, defense can be simpler than offense. Hey, tackle the guy, intercept the ball, and offense, obviously it's more of a scheme and a system and, plays, blah, blah, blah. I think the defenses are ahead of the offenses at this point early in the season.
Much more with Brady. We got another hour and change to go.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language, because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, we'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, so we'll get over to baseball in just a second, but we were talking about this North Carolina TCU game, which is coming up in, at this point, about 2 hours. Of course, who knows what time the 8 o'clock Eastern game is going to start with all the pregame hoopla and festivities, and who knows what else, Brady. The thing will probably, be advertised for 8 on the dot and kick off at 8:11 or some crazy number. But I don't, this is why I'm so interested in having Ryan McIntyre on with us in a little while, because I don't really, I want to invest in the game, and I know I don't have to. Nobody's making me. I want to, and let's be honest, there's some boosts out there that kind of push you over the edge, that kind of coax you into doing it a little bit as well. But I don't really know how this plays out. I would like, because I love to fall in love with Narrative Street when appropriate, I would like to look toward North Carolina to cover, maybe even win. I think there are a lot of salient points you could make toward backing the Tar Heels, but then there is a part of me that also believes that we're just not paying TCU enough respect. That there is a universe in which TCU not only covers, but wins this thing by 3 touchdowns, going away, and embarrasses Belichick in North Carolina. It completely takes all the air and the energy out of that stadium and makes Michael Jordan leave the stadium as quickly as Mark Wahlberg left the Patriots Super Bowl years ago. I just don't know what to expect. What about you?
Yeah, Michael Jordan will be getting out of Dodge and headed to New York to go attend the Ryder Cup in 3 weeks, right?
That's right.
No, I'm with you. I think, Sonny Dykes could spin this like, hey, all the attention is on this team and their new coach on the other side. Guys, we're practically the underdog here. I mean, let's just look at this on the surface. You've got a team that was, a 2.5 point favorite. It moved to 3.5. They're on the road at North Carolina against the legendary Bill Belichick, and they're better than a field goal favorite. I mean, I think that's kind of telling you something. They are the better team, and I think part of this is true as well. Adam, you mentioned it. We don't really know a ton about North Carolina. One thing we do know, they don't have a Marion Hampton this year. He's now a Los Angeles Charger. He was an outstanding running back for this team last year. And you talked about it in the last segment too. Belichick, first and foremost, has always been a defensive guy. Grew up in the NFL ranks as a defensive coordinator, and that was really kind of the side of the ball that he leaned on even as head coach of the Patriots. Now, Sonny Dykes, I know he's much more of an offensive guy, but they have a very good defensive unit due the TCU Horned Frogs. So I'm a little bit surprised by all this money coming in late to the over, but maybe this is that standalone game phenomenon where we see the public get involved and just run to the window rooting for points. This is something that we see in the NFL every Sunday when, about 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, and we're waiting for that Sunday night game to go with Collinsworth and Michaels or whatever, Tirico and Collinsworth, I guess, these days. Mm-hmm, and you see the total get steamed to the over because everybody trying to, get even or get even deeper. And it's typically the favorite and the over. And this is kind of that last game of the holiday weekend type of thing. Maybe that's what's going on here. So, you're kind of asking yourself, and I think you bring up great arguments, and you also have kind of your, betting with your heart involved here that you're trying to guard against because you grew up a Patriot and a Belichick fan. You don't want to necessarily go down that street too much. And you do believe that TCU's maybe being ignored here as the better team. Maybe the best bet to make is play under the total. Wait as long as you can. Wait another 2 hours or whatever it is. And at the last minute, when maybe this gets to 55 or 55.5, play the under. And maybe you play the under in the first half as well. Maybe that is the best bet to make right now in this game.
I don't think it'll happen, Brady, but let's just say Belichick and company win this game by 2 touchdowns at home. How quickly are we talking about bowl games and college football playoff and all of that for Bill Belichick?
The overreaction storm that ensues after.
All the shows tomorrow. Everyone's back from the Labor Day holiday break and can't wait to talk about Bill Belichick.
That would be something, wasn't it? That house of yours on Narrative Street would be in full force.
That's right. I'd be making a killing on that.
Anything's possible, but no, I think TCU's favored for a reason, man. There's a lot of people. One guy in the stands there, Colby Dant, who I have a ton of respect for. He thinks the Tar Heels are going to cover the number.
Phillies have taken a lead 6-5 in Milwaukee. Mizorowski has
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky.